I saw an incredible connection between the fast of the 10th of Tevet this Friday and the whole episode of the sale of Yosef, of Joseph, which always takes place at the same time. We all know that the only fast that ever takes place on a Friday is the fast of Asara B'Tevet, as it does this year, because somehow this was the beginning of the end. Kol hatchalot kashot. So the beginning often points to a direction of what is going to happen at the end. It points in a certain direction which is often irrevocable, and that's what happened. This was the siege in Jerusalem. When the Babylonians besieged Jerusalem, the time of Nebuchadnezzar, of the destruction of the first temple, it really was the beginning of the end. And then afterwards was Tammuz, and afterwards was Av, but really it all began with this horrific siege of Jerusalem, which took place on Asara B'Tevet. And I found an incredible connection by Rabbi Shlomo Fischer, Zatzal, great Rosh Yeshiva and Dayan in Israel, in his book Drashot Beit Yishai, where he says an amazing thing of the connection between the 10th of Tevet and the sale of Yosef. He says he thinks that the sale of Yosef took place on the 10th of Tevet. He says because after all, we know that the Mishnah in Masechet Tanit gives biblical dates for some of the fast that we have regarding the destruction of the temple. Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, the 17th of Tammuz, the day that the Luchot were broken, the tablets. We also know that Tisha B'Av, the day of the Chet HaMeraglim, the sin of the spies. The two great sins of Chet HaEgel and Chet HaMeraglim are anchored in the two sad days, which would happen later, of the destruction of the temple, the breaking the walls of Yerushalayim, and the destruction of the temple. But he says we don't know of a biblical date of where it all began, with the siege of Jerusalem, which led to the destruction. And he says, Lulei Mistafina, he said, I suggest that it took place on the 10th of Tevet. And he says, he gives a zeichel davar. He says it's not a direct proof, but he says it's circumstantial evidence. He says, what is the mazal? What is the star sign of the month of Tammuz? He says it's the gedi, the goat. And what is the symbol of the brothers, the blood of Yosef to Yaakov, the seir, when they dip it in goat's blood and show it to the father? And therefore he suggests that it took place on Asara B'Tevet. And I want to go with his suggestion and go even deeper. You see, chronologically, the first thing that led to the Sinat Chinam was the sale of Yosef. Yes, the temple was destroyed in Tisha B'Av, and of the Chet HaMeraglim. And yes, before that, chronologically, we have the breaking of the Luchot. But the first thing in biblical literature, in Chumash, which highlights brothers giving up on each other, Sinat Chinam, is the sale of Yosef. How it is that brothers could give up on each other, sell one for dead, no matter what the reason, is the sin of breaking up the Jewish family, selling a brother for dead, which continues to haunt us until today. There is no greater sin, says the Meshech Chochmah in the book of Vayikra, the sin of Bein Adam L'Chavero, of a sin of one, of interpersonal relationships, which continues to haunt the Jewish people in every generation, is the sin of the sale of Yosef. It's the beginning of the end. It's the beginning of the breakup of the brothers of Yosef. And it's my hope and prayer that just as Yehuda in this week's parsha, Vayigash, does the most incredible teshuvah, says the Abar Ben of Yitzchak Harama. What does he do? He's in the exact same position where he can give up on his brother Benjamin, who is a brother of Yosef from the same mother Rachel, who has stolen the goblet, so to speak, and can easily just let Benjamin rot away in prison, as they did with Yosef, and go back to their father. And what does he do famously? Yehuda, he says, Avdecha arav etanar. He says, I cannot and dare not let my brother Benjamin go back to my father. I have taken a personal surety, a personal guarantor. I will sit until the end of days in his place. We will never divide this family again. We will never sell our brother again, and I will never turn my back on my brother again. And just as Yehuda elicited the outpouring of emotion from Yosef, which brought together this family, so too, Be'ezrat Hashem, since the 7th of October, with all the machlokot that we've had, we understand that we are one people and one family. We understand how we have to take personal responsibility and surety for each other, that we dare not give up on any of the ideologies in the Jewish people, whether or not we think they're right or not, as Yehuda thought about Yosef, and Yehuda and Yosef about his brothers, but to bring together, as it says in the Haftarah, to bring together Yehuda and Yosef, the two branches of Yosef, together creating one Jewish people. May we all recommit and recommit to the tshuva of Mechirat Yosef, of being one people who are forever committed to the integrity and unity of the Jewish family, that we believe in each other, and that ultimately this Arvut Haradit, this Ish Echad B'Lev Echad, the fact that we are one people and one family, the Brit Goral of the covenant of fate at the core of Jewish destiny, is something that we commit to, we live by now more than ever. Shabbat Shalom.